Hello and welcome to Inside Salem. I'm your host, Mike Allen. On this show, we try to go behind the scenes of what's happening in Salem and do some extra analysis that you don't normally see. And for that end, we assemble a panel of people who are in the know. We have Teasie Riley-Goggin, Salem political analyst.
Thank you for being here with me, yes.
Domingo Dominguez, former councilor at large.
Very glad to be here. Thank you, Mike.
Tom Furey, former school committee member, former councilor at large and current planning board member.
Thank you.
And Jim Fleming, original panel member, attorney Jim Fleming, original panel member, former Ward 6 city councilor, former school committee member.
Nice to be here, Mike, especially me. I've had a couple of tough months.
Yeah.
And it's really spectacular that I'm here tonight.
Oh, good.
Good role model. We're lucky to have you.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, some of the topics we'll be talking about today is the new high school, of course, the development around town, Halloween parking, Mansell Field, and the mayor's new podcast. But before we get off on all those subjects, let's hear from TC talking about the upcoming Salem Friends of Council on Aging event.
Thank you, Mike. On this month, June 26th, at Salem Willows in the pavilion there outside, from 5 to 7, we have a fundraiser coming with cocktails and hors d'oeuvres. And as we say, 5 to 7, we're praying for good weather, but one way or the other, we'll weather whatever comes our way. And we're saying the tickets are $25, and every penny of that goes directly to the seniors and projects that they would not have if they didn't have the Friends of the Council on Aging, who are the major fundraising that we have. One of these fine days, I think, when we have a new administration, hopefully we'll get together and maybe come up with a decent budget for the seniors that we have. It's the largest group that we have here in the city of Salem, but it still has one of the smallest budgets. Thank you, Mike.
Okay, very good.
What day is that?
That's Thursday, June 26th.
Thursday, June 26th.
Yes, 5 to 7. And if you don't have a ticket right now, we have a ticket for you waiting either at the door when you come in or at the entrance into the pavilion.
And can they call down to the...
They can call the Council on Aging. Don't ask me the number. I went there.
Where it's going to be at the Willow? Winter Island or the Willow?
The what?
Where it's going to be displayed? Where?
Oh, yes, the Salem Willows, yes.
Salem Willow.
Yeah, Winter Island.
Winter Island.
Winter Island, not Salem Willows.
Yeah,
Winter Island.
yeah, Winter
that's-
Island.
yeah,
Sorry,
Winter
yes.
Island.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah,
right,
okay.
yeah.
Very good. And yeah, so that's, hopefully a lot of people will,
No, I have
seek
to
that
say that I participated before. It is worth the $25 and more. You get a lot of food. You also see and have the opportunity to interact with so many friends in Salem. The seniors are the rock of any foundation, and being there, supporting them, and be around them, make anybody happy. I feel so great when I'm participating in this type of event. So I encourage everybody to come.
Okay, very good. Okay, Tom, if I could do my usual thing here and get some updates on what's happening around with our, in front of the planning board. Any new circumstances regarding the Gateway project, so-called, the project at the corner of Boston and Bridge, which 2 months ago we were lamenting about 100 years of inactivity, and then all of a sudden it exploded.
Lo and behold, I was at a Council on Aging function this afternoon. Cindy Nabikowski, our concert master at Salem High School, band leader at Salem High School, was conducting a beautiful live concert in the Council on Aging facility. And what was going on in the background? Those big Tonka trucks were going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth on the Switzer project, on the Gateway project.
Yeah.
And Council on Aging, as we all know, was originally a part of that project. So last night at the Conservation Commission, they sat down with Mr. Switzer, the actual developer, the longtime developer, Mr. Switzer, and his entourage and his team, and he got a 2-year extension There's question marks about the deed, the actual deed to the property, but they're going ahead with the property, with the original idea with apartments. The Council on Aging is already built there, so the apartments, maybe 200 apartments, maybe.
Supposed to be condominiums.
Condominiums, pardon me,
Right,
right,
yeah,
condominiums.
yeah.
Economy.
Yeah.
It's long overdue. It's one of the most hazardous, one of the most ugliest sites in the city on a major entranceway, Boston Street, Bridge Street, and finally, after a long journey, it's going to be developed. We hope to see that opened up within a year or two.
Okay.
They're not going to go. I don't think they're going to go back to all the committees. I think they're going fast track, like the Marriott Hotel. They're going fast track.
Yeah.
Two
Yeah, sure.
points on that, Tom.
Sure, please.
Number one, the activity that preceded this, is that the infrastructure that's been worked on?
That's correct. It's the
How
infrastructure.
come that was secret?
That was the whole project has been a secret for many years. For all of us who knew.
Oh,
When Domingo was on the
it's
city
never been
council
a
too.
project, so there's no secret.
Yeah.
There's never been a project.
It's hard to keep a secret in Salem.
Yeah. But recently, there was a lot of activity down there, and I think I asked you on a show about it, but others also told me that no one's talking. No one's telling anybody what it is.
It's the best kept secret in Salem there, and it's coming out ever so slowly, like moving a glacier, taking a left-hand turn on the
And it's
Titanic.
going to be condominiums.
Yes.
And how many, 200?
I don't remember how
Well,
many.
the original thing, I think I was 117, if I remember correctly, 117.
117 is
Thank you.
better than 200.
But it was in that neighborhood, if that's not.
It was supposed to have commercial on the bottom, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
And do they still plan
I
that?
think still
Did they
plan
say
way.
that?
Yes, the buildings are the same. The infrastructure is being done as we see, being done, the big Tonka trucks
Good
back and
place
forth.
for a dollar store.
Was there any mention on, it's my pet project to watch this, because I look at the amount of space that the Council on Aging takes up at the present time as a portion, along with the park and recreation down there on Bridge Street, the parking. In other words, if you're going to have 117 apartments and commercial on the bottom, where are all these people going to park? They're certainly not going to leave that fence up and leave all that parking at night down there. They'll do something, because the land does not belong to the city. I want to know how they're going to do that, because we own a condominium, but that's all we own is the condominium,
Yeah,
not
so
the land.
So it would depend, I mean, because they could have, when they did the condominium agreement, they could have done it with 50 parking spaces as part of that for exclusive use. I mean, that could have been part of, I mean, just like the building is for exclusive use of the city of Salem, they could have done those designated parking spaces. We don't know the answer to that,
No, we don't.
but it's
I
possible.
can't believe that they would take them away.
Well, it might be, a free-for-all. It might be the spaces belong to everything, in which case, in effect, they're taking them away.
But any developers with a vision for the future and to make a profit, a developer, whether Mr. Rizzo or anybody else, has to keep in mind who's going to live in those condominiums and apartments and so on. So I think they're going to be earmarked for senior citizens. Sincerely, limited parking, maybe one car per unit situation there. So I think that's already been in the gateway situation,
Yeah.
as the gateway project. So I think it was mostly senior citizens. You're going to have senior housing in the old St. James, mostly senior housing at the old St. James School. You've got the senior center right there. That's the ideal spot for those 117 condominiums to be earmarked to seniors.
But the drawback to that is, I mean, the developer wants to max out their money.
Yes.
And they're going to max out their money going market rate, unless they're building very small units, which do not lend themselves to a high-end market. And that way there, so instead of building one high-end unit, they're building two, medium to low-end units. So we don't know the direction they're going. The other thing that concerns me is that oftentimes in these big projects like this, the condominiums go unsold, and then someone comes in and buys 20 of them. and then those 20 of them end up being rental units. So that's something that's concerning, because there's a property on
Can't stop it though, Mike.
Line Street that's, that was condoized. It was a older property. It was condoized, I don't know, 30 years ago or something like that. And half the units in it, and there's like 50 units in it, half the units in it, I believe, are rental. And it makes it difficult for the owners of the units to sell their unit. It just, because people don't want to be, if they're an owner, they want to be with other owners. They don't want to be with renters. But that concerns me as well.
In my case in Florida, where I was in a building with 40 units,
Yeah.
and the condominium documents limited rentals to 5.
Right.
So you can, if they
Right.
if
Yeah.
they do it right, you can do it. You can limit the number of.
Right. But my thing is, I don't believe the city did it right with Mr.
You're
Switzer.
probably right, because I don't
that's
think
the
they
thing.
didn't do anything right.
Yeah.
you know?
I mean, how did he have? I mean, this has been at least 15 years.
Yeah.
And
amazing.
whoever heard
They
of
give it
of
the guy another 2 years.
whoever heard of a permit being open that you could just walk in and use the permit 15 years later? There isn't. That's never. I don't ever
Never.
recall that being done.
Never.
I agree.
Yeah. So the
agree.
thing is this. I mean, strings were pulled behind the scenes to get this whatever that project was, and
why?
and
why
the
would
whole.
why would they?
I don't
this
know.
guy doesn't walk on water.
Yeah. I don't know the answer to that. Hopefully, it comes out someday.
But we were saying before that there was some question on the deed. Well, if Switzer doesn't own it free and clear, that belonged before to a young developer that we had, and his name was Massey. And he was originally from Salem, and he has family that's still in Salem.
Yeah.
But that was a time when Osco Drug wanted to come in at the corner of Boston
Okay.
and Bridge there. But the people in the neighborhood did not want an Osco Drug. They wanted something more fitting to the neighborhood.
Right.
And they fought for what they wanted. And I'm not saying I blame them, but
Right. Yeah.
but the only thing is right now, and like you're saying, all these years, that permit, I don't see someone carrying a permit for 10, 12 years.
Yeah, that I just don't.
No.
That just never happens.
Never
That's all-
happened.
they've always.
I was on
they
the
always,
board of appeal. Never happened. Never happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You might give a guy a 6-month extension.
Yeah, things like that. But
Yeah.
we're not talking,
You
12 years.
Yeah, the guy runs into unfavorable conditions in the soil or something.
So how can you investigate and make sure that all the facts are there? Because I think one of the things that we as a citizens, we need to realize that even the government or the city government or state government or federal government do whatever they feel is good. We have the right to know exactly what's going on. I had the right to know why that permit is being so long in one project where others expired at 1 year.
I
so
agree with you.
that's something need to be
There's
done
been
in there.
nothing transparent about that project since day one. And I agree with you, the citizens of Salem should deserve why there was a 15-year delay.
Right.
And also remember that, I mean, the Community Life Center, Senior Center, is on that property.
Yeah.
And that was not on the radar to go on that property.
No, it was not.
And all of a sudden ends up on this developer's property.
Forced down there by the administration.
Yeah.
I think we need to call whoever is in charge on that to come out and present a legit reason why. I mean, the people of Salem deserve transparency, and the only way that can happen is if we request it, but at the end, if we also, put everyone in evidence. Who is the department in charge of that? Do you know? Does the planning department have to do anything with that or no?
Right. Well, again, it was the mayor who was in charge of putting it through. The previous mayor, current lieutenant governor. This was on her watch that this project went through. I mean, she negotiated terms with the developer, and it was her, people at the head of these boards. You know, so I mean, whatever reason, you know, it's really the previous mayor is the one that approved this.
I hope it doesn't
Well,
go
the
back.
other thing is, when I was on the senior site committee at the time, and the mayor talked to the city council at the time and talked about the fact that if it went through and a condominium was going to be built on this property, inside of this building that was going to go up by Sweetser, and that they would pay for the condominiums for the seniors, that it would not come out of the pocket of the taxpayers.
Okay.
Now, quote, would not come out of the pocket of the taxpayers. Let me tell you, it is coming directly out of the pocket of the taxpayers.
Yeah, and then the other thing that came in, you know, Ward 3 Council time Todd Siegel brought it up because the mayor brought in, again, previous mayor brought in something that said, okay, fine, we lost our money that we had from the federal government
Right.
to do a senior center because we didn't act quick enough. And then from there, we had, it was touted that the building that would go in would leaning towards medical, you know, center type
Right.
things, where a doctor's office and things like that. And Todd Siegel, and that the real estate taxes from that would pay for the bond for the senior center. And Todd Siegel mentioned and brought up that typically these type of operations are tax exempt, and so therefore they would not be paying taxes, and so therefore the citizens of Salem would be on the hook, and lo and behold, the citizens of Salem are on the hook for $5 to $7 million.
Great book, ready to be written.
Yeah.
Well, you know, it's no different. In other words, the people on the council were used not only 10 years ago for that project, but also for the project at the present time down there with the land at the train station.
Okay.
That you stop and compare, you know,
Yeah.
that was supposed to be what? Yeah.
Well, again, that project originally, and that's another project we want to talk about. Now we're going to switch gears to the property, the two buildings, historic buildings on the corner of Federal Street and Washington Street, and the adjacent and across the Bridge Street, next to the train station parking lot, a property known as the Crescent Lot, the Crescent Lot was deeded over to the Salem Redevelopment Authority and tied to those two buildings for parking, so that you would have parking because of the extensive cost of developing those two buildings on Federal Street. Well, lo and behold, project comes in, and they're going to build, 110 units on
Yes,
that, on the Crescent Lot, and you know, and the Federal Street project is sort of pushed to the side. I tend to think that nothing's going to be done with those buildings. Ultimately, they're going to build the Crescent Lot property, and they're going to ignore these other buildings until such time as, much like the Salem Armory.
They're tough buildings to.
Yeah.
Buildings to do residential.
Yeah,
in.
no, they are.
Real
I mean,
tough.
yeah. But again, the incentive of having, you know, downtown parking, you know, and it was going to be like underground things, so you don't have to cross the road or whatever. That was sort of the talk. Would make it, you know, luxury, high-end apartments in a historic building, and a couple of historic buildings, big apartments they would be because of the nature of the building, and that was supposed to make it quote-unquote worthwhile because they could sell the condominiums, the residential condominiums, at a major premium because of multiple parking spaces deeded with each of the units.
But right
And
now,
yeah.
I'm saying it's no longer just pie in the sky as far as putting up a parking garage. I would say that behind the scenes, that they have, you know, plans for a parking garage down there in the Almers Lot, as we refer to it.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Remember, going back to my days in City Council, remember that one of the reasons why we voted in favor of having the parking lot attached to the buildings on Federal Street is because we alleviate the situation of parking in that area. And having that done will alleviate and make it more attractive. We agree on that, but later they change and they
Yeah.
separated two properties. But it's an issue over there that I don't think a lot of people talk about it. That piece of land, the crescent land, is a wetland, and that has some type of protection in some area. It's flooded. It's going to be flooded. I know that they're offering a program. I'm not a program, a project where they're going to elevate maybe the first floor to avoid that the bottom line is being flooded. I don't think they have been discussing that enough to the public, so the public know exactly what's going on in that piece of land. But those changes, going back to transparency, happen in a secret basis. Nobody knows.
Yeah.
They just had a plan, they implemented, and they move forward. And at the end, you wake up here and you see something that's going on that you never
Yeah.
knew.
It
was
is,
gonna
yeah,
happen.
it's very unfortunate. I mean, it's been quite secretive
Very
the
much
past
so.
25 years.
Very much so.
Yeah.
But like any big project like this that we're talking about now, it's like taking a left-hand turn with the Titanic, and you can't do it that quickly. This project is being developed by Wind Developers, which is a national company that has good reputation. There's wind projects all over Massachusetts and all
Yeah.
over the United States.
Yeah.
It's got a trademark name, a good name. So they're taking a great challenging situation, turning it around for the city of Salem. They took over the courthouses. The courthouses, well, the two courthouses, as Jim said, were very challenging sites. One courthouse will be used as a function room, facility room. It's so small and limited in housing, and the other one will have a number of units for apartments
Yeah.
there. And then across the street, the Crescent lot that we're talking about, parking and so on, that's going to be 110 units there. So I think with the courthouses, the brand new courthouses that we've seen develop, the Rowan and Bushko courthouses and the probate courthouses, downtown Salem is getting a big push into economic development. You see all the condominiums right near your place in Mike's your smoke shop,
Yeah.
the many condominiums throughout the city, downtown Salem. It's a thriving downtown, 365 days a year. People living in and eating,
Yeah.
dining, shopping, and
Yeah.
exciting.
But again, the concern is that, and I understand the challenge, but we're going to put 110 units down there. Where is the parking for them? In other words, there's not 110 parking spaces on the Crescent lot now, I don't
Absolutely
think.
not. Absolutely
Yeah,
not.
and so here it is, you're putting in 110 units, which is supposed to have 1.5 or 2.
1.5.
1.5. So that means it's supposed to have 215, 225, 215 parking spaces, and there's less than 110 now. So, we're talking about what, 25 parking spaces? So again, we're bending over backwards at the detriment of the residents of Salem, the current residents of Salem, to put in more apartments. And you get traffic out there, it's like gridlock. Coming here today, I was a little late because traffic is gridlock. It's an issue.
Well, right now, the parking garage is a mess itself, and that something has to be done with it.
Yeah.
But here in the city of Salem, it's like, with the building that's going on and the things that are being built and the parking spaces that we have, it's like saying, we're going to have a sit-down meal, and we invite 100 people, but we only have 20 plate settings.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, what are we supposed to do with it? I mean,
Sit on each other's lap.
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
well, we keep giving away spaces in these garages.
That's right.
And right now, we've run out of spaces, but what we've done, and people are not watching it, they're moving these people into neighborhoods,
Yeah.
and they're parking on one side of the street. And this is all, we have so many traffic park, I don't know the names of all the new committees, but we have too many people giving directions.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's and also down there on Richard Boston Street, I would like to ask when the last time was that they tested the land down there, because no one is ever going to convince me, even though after time there's a certain amount of contaminated land that lessens the contamination. I want to know what the most recent
Okay.
wells that they put
Where-
down.
Where is that?
The corner of Bridge in Boston.
Oh,
She's talking
you're
about.
back to Bridge and Boston.
Yeah.
Bridge of Boston, yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That, because I know
I thought we were done with that.
they did not sink all the wells all the way where the present building is.
Yeah.
They kind of got away with that. But I know that they said that they took stuff out of that land and moved it, I believe they said someplace in New Hampshire. But no
Yeah.
one seems to remember any great big project like that.
I remember a state agency declaring that nobody could stay overnight there.
Well, again, my understanding is that the deed from Sylvania or
Yeah.
Ostrom, or what is it called
Yes,
now?
Ostrom, right.
Osram,
Yeah, because they bought out Sylvania, that they sold the deed with a stipulation that residential couldn't go there because they didn't want anything to come back and haunt them for the pollution that's there on their watch. However, it's being ignored, and for whatever reason, because there's money to be made. Yeah,
I think that's the answer.
yeah.
Money
Now,
has been made and will
Yeah.
continue to be made. Yeah.
Now, you were mentioning the Church Street lot, or the Almies parking
Yes.
lot, and it's the parking lot on Church Street. All us Salem old-timers call it Almies because of Almies department store that was right there.
Between Federal and Church.
Yeah, between Federal and Church Street, that parking lot there. You're talking about putting a parking garage there. Well, yeah, I mean, that's certainly going to happen at some point. And it's just a matter when we can, find some agency to fund part of it. That's what's holding it up because it costs too much money to build. With prevailing wage and things like that. What was it? The MBTA garage was $40 million. $800,000 a parking space, I think it was.
I don't remember the.
Yeah. But,
Thank you for mentioning the
pardon,
amount of money.
$80,000 a
Yeah,
parking space.
that's
Yeah,
high.
yeah,
That's a high.
$80,000 a parking space, which is still very,
It's still
very
high,
Yeah.
but it's not 800,000.
But to the
Well,
mayor's
wait
credit,
till you talk about the school and what it's going to cost to build that. I don't know where the money's coming from.
Yeah, and
I
again,
mean, monopoly money.
I was thinking that if we took, say, $50 million and gave it to one of these, private education groups and said to them, here's $50 million startup, and you're going to get, and we'll also give you what 90% of what it costs per student, adjusted for inflation each year, and you take over the high school, and I believe we would save so much money and get a better education for our students, by doing that. That's my thing. And you have to take all the students, you put in their, performance reviews, you have to graduate, X percent, and they have to perform so well, etc. I just think that would be so much better for the taxpayers than what this
No,
$500 million,
public education
$500 million.
has a history, though, of being part of democracy.
Yeah, $500 million. There's
But
got to be a
fourth
limit to
year-
what we spend on these things. This is $500 million with a B.
It's a lot of money.
But the only thing is that the forefathers before had no idea that education was going to be taken over primarily by politicians.
Okay.
And that's where the flaw is. It's not run by educators. And I don't know who it's run by anymore, to be honest with you.
Okay.
No, but I know that Salem,
Certainly can't say Harvard.
because you were on it
Kevin
and you
Hart.
fought your heart out, Jim, and the rest of you, you were all on it at school
Yeah.
committee. But you know some of the things that you went through because of things that were going on in this city. And I'm not saying we're the only city that lacks transparency, but we're one of the biggest ones with the biggest loss that I look at.
Yeah.
And I look and say, what do we have? A high school that fits, is it 2,000 or 3,000?
2,000.
That now has
Over
800 or
2,000.
900?
2,000, built for 2,000.
Yeah, and it's going, and our current population, is under 1,000. And we're spending $500 million for a school that holds 1,000 people. I just think that's...
One of the things is that really, I think is ticking a lot of people off in Salem, is that little plan that the mayor developed relative to building units, rental units on school property, basically Witchcraft and the high school, and rent them to young teachers.
That's
I wish I
really-
was a teacher with that opportunity. As a young teacher, starting off with a salary of a
Right.
beginning teacher,
Right.
to live on the property, city property, Salem High School, Witchcraft Heights, as you mentioned, there's land there. And it's prime land. That would be
Prime-
ideal to
prime
have
land.
educators there and work there at the school system. So I think the first volunteer was a young man back
Yeah.
then.
Okay.
All right, you were all on the school
Especially when you
committee.
come out, excuse me, I'm sorry, but especially when you come out of school, even state school, with the burden of at least $100,000.
Yeah.
At least 100,000.
Staggering.
Yeah.
And you're 4 years behind in your peers who are plumbers, carpenters, etc.
Yeah. Okay.
But I'm saying you were on school committee, and I know one thing, I know they've talked again and again about the fact that the money from the state that comes for each student belongs supposedly to the student, and that they should be able to use it to the best of their ability where they want to go. How many of you agree with that?
No, I don't.
I do. I think the money
I
should
don't.
always belong. It shouldn't belong. It doesn't belong to the city. It belongs to the student. Absolutely. And that's why I'm a proponent of charter schools. I'm a proponent of vouchers.
Public education, Mike.
Okay, well, it's still public. and it's being paid.
Cornerstone of democracy since this country was founded 250 years ago.
Okay.
I believe in competition, too, myself, my competition. It makes the public schools better to have competition. In Lynn, they have the KIPP Academy, a private academy. We have a charter school in Salem. It gives us to compete. And we need role models of competition. In our days growing up, we used to have parochial schools, Catholic schools, in many of the cities and towns surrounding
Right,
Salem.
yeah.
We don't have Catholic schools anymore.
Yeah.
Primarily, we mean one in Peabody, there in St. John's Prep and Bishop Fenwick.
And
but
there's one
public
in
schools-
Lynn, St. Mary's.
St. Mary's.
Yeah, but there
St.
used to be
Mary's,
there used to be what in Salem there were like
Yeah,
5 or
Five,
6.
minimum 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's one in,
And there's none
at
now.
least one in Beverly, maybe 2.
Isn't those school tied up to the Catholic Church?
Yeah.
And the change that they have made on going with less building nationwide affect that into all communities.
Yeah.
They decided to have another role, another model of doing what they do. They concentrate more in the churches, local community, than in school, I believe so.
Yeah.
And they close so many buildings, some of them due to less members that they have because of the drop down that many,
Right, yeah.
many people, including all of the factors that we had nationwide with immigration, unemployment, and many other issues, allow the community to shrink, and that affects basically not only the Catholic Church, but every religion churches now is facing that they have less members, and some of them are funded by their own members, offering tithes, and sometimes they don't have enough to maintain the building. So the Catholic churches and other factors, including into the fact the Catholic churches was a lot of legal demand they have from some alleged abuse that they have
Yeah.
in the past. So they had to set it up and they had to sell the building
Yeah.
to pay for those demands. So that's basically, it is a reflection of many factors.
Right. Yes.
that
I mean, again, it wasn't like they conspired to take away education opportunities away, but it just wasn't, was unaffordable. And that's why they closed down, because if it was, breaking even or whatever, they would have kept them all. But anyways, okay.
Well, right now, when I was growing up, everyone didn't go to college because everyone couldn't afford to go to college. They
Yeah.
had to go to work. But right now, I'm looking at what the cost of going to college is. And suddenly, I think the younger people, after this pandemic, has got the idea that going to Salem State, and even though they might have the Abigail scholarship for $900 to $1,000 that they didn't have to pay for their tuition, it costs them on the other end of it close to $15,000 to $20,000.
Yeah.
And now they can find out that they can belong to, is it Southwest or Southeast College there? and if they can do work on the computer and work from home, I mean, they're finding out there's other ways to get that college degree that seems to be. I'm looking for the idea of technical schools being pushed the way they should be pushed, and the respect that should go with them. And I think it's well on its way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, we've talked on this panel multiple times about the need for more vocational
Right.
opportunities, because for one thing, that's where the jobs are nowadays. I mean,
Right.
how many more history teachers do we need? I mean, that was the number one. That was the number one major that graduated with me from college.
I think it still is.
And again, and that's the thing, it still is. I mean, basically, that degree means you go into teaching. That was what it was for. I mean, you take an education minor with a history degree, a history major, and you went into teaching. I mean, but how many history teachers? I mean, there's only so many history teachers need. Yeah, so they have degrees that don't pay back what they put into it, where there's a definite need for tradesmen,
Yeah, but
HVAC and
Mike,
plumbers and electricians and
it seems that you're talking about the teaching of history. Now it seems that it's not the teaching of history, it's how to change history.
Okay.
So it didn't exist. I don't know how you prestidigitation,
yeah,
Now you see it, now you don't.
yeah,
Well, are we celebrating something like that tomorrow?
Yeah.
Tomorrow, yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah.
You're right. June 19th.
yeah. But so in any event, that's the new high school thing there. City of Salem is working on a new plan for Halloween parking. This is where they allow private property outside, private property to rent out parking spaces in the month of October. I'm not sure if it's on the weekends and Fridays or whatever. I don't know the details of what it is. And because they were doing it anyways, and this sort of that means the city is going to get a bit of a kickback, so to speak, from it, and they've expanded the number of areas that you can do it in. Before there was a limit there, and now it's even growing bigger and bigger. I mean, the parking needs to be there. I mean, because you can't find parking in the month of October, so it's not an unreasonable thing.
Are they going to have to get a permit so that they can park on some people in their driveway? Are they
Yeah,
looking
and
for
that's the
permits?
thing. I just don't know if we can do that.
We'd
I
have
mean,
to wait till the ordinance is
I'm
developed.
just saying the audacity of what this city, tries to pull on taxpayers. I mean, when a taxpayer is going to say enough is enough, right? Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
someone telling me I can or I can't park people, and charge them, why not?
yeah. Yeah, so that's people were doing it, and the city decided they didn't want
Get in
that,
on it,
so
yeah.
then they decided they needed the parking, so as I say, I'm sure they're charging a per. My guess would be they're going to be charging a per space fee, to enhance their revenue stream. But
Well, the only thing is, if they charge $50 to come here and park for the day,
yeah,
I want to know does anyone know what it costs now? If you park someplace and you are towed, how much is it going to cost you to get your
a lot
car
more than
back?
50.
A lot more
Around
than 50.
500?
I don't think
Well,
that.
most of the money goes to the company that do the toll.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The city have a very low ticketed amount. I think that was one of the issues in the past. That if I had to choose, I can park in the street, get the ticket, whatever they give me a ticket, and it would be less than what I pay in a parking lot, which
Yeah.
actually increased by day here in Salem. I saw last couple of Halloweens, places where you had to pay $80 to park, 50, 60.
Yeah, I saw 50.
So-
that was the
I saw-
highest one
yeah,
I
I saw
saw.
50.
I saw 180. So basically, it is worth it to to park on the street. Yes, I think that's what we need to look is to see exactly what the other cities around, a big city like Boston, Lawrence, what are they implement for those type of situations? Because this is a situation that need to be very well organized. I mean, we need to make sure that we come with a good formula so we can help not only the people that are coming in, but the people that live here, because we have issue all over the place. I know we had a plan where you can park in certain area with certain permits and such and such and such, but still a lot of issue with that during the Halloween season. I have a lot of people, when I used to be in the city council, coming to me and say, where I'm gonna park? I don't have a way to come and visit my mom.
Yeah.
If I park right there, they're gonna tow it, or they're gonna give me a ticket. People who live here, actually. So we need to see if we can find a formula that can alleviate everyone here in Salem during the month of October.
Yeah. Yeah, again, it is very tough, and I understand the people in the downtown area who live there. It's very tough. That's why there's residential sticker parking only in those areas. I've always been opposed to residential sticker parking because, again, when you rent an apartment and you look in the advertisement in the paper and it says, comes with 1 parking space, comes with 2 parking spaces. Well, I know most of the Salem particularly down, between Derby Street and Essex Street and that area around the Common and stuff. I mean, those were built well before there were cars, and so therefore the streets were not made to park on. There's no driveways or anything like that. The houses are 3 or 4 feet apart.
Yeah, but others have profited from that philosophy by tearing one of the houses down.
Yeah.
One of the streets that go into the law from Lower Essex Street, I don't remember what it was, but they tore a couple houses down and made it a parking lot.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and so that way they would increase, but they don't want to do that now because all those houses are historic. So the thing is, though, you get, when you rent a place and if it comes with a parking space, you pay extra. So it just seems like we're subsidizing the landlords by allowing their tenants to get parking only. And other residents of Salem who live in, say, Ward 4, or Ward 4, which is probably the most single-family houses in the city, and all with parking, driveways and things like that. In effect, are subsidizing other places in Salem, other residents in Salem for their parking. And they can't go and park, if they're going to go visit someone who lives in that part of Salem, they can't park there even though they are a resident because they're not a resident of that neighborhood. I just think it's an unreasonable system. I've always been opposed.
Never supported resident stickers.
Yeah.
Never.
And I can, I would reluctantly support it in the month of October, but that's really it for me. Because again, you have to be able to. Otherwise, you just never can get home. I mean, it's one thing to have to find a parking space, but you can't for the month. I mean, for a month you can't park at all. So I just, as I say, I would carve out an exception for the month of October, for that area. But
I might.
The police department doesn't like residential parking either.
Yeah.
They don't really favor it at all. We tried in parts of Ward 6 there, and the police department said no.
Yeah.
They didn't want it.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, I know somebody that parks their car over in Beverly in October,
Yeah.
and they said they park close to a bus line,
Yeah.
and sometimes they get a ride from someone to go and get their car, and sometimes they take the bus
Yeah.
to go and get their car. But they said they only use their car 2 or 3 times a week, so
Yeah.
it's better off to park in another city.
I tend to say that it's in some area is necessary. I live by Salem State University, and if we don't have residential parking sticker, we're going to be poor or
students, yeah.
students that come
Yeah,
from different
okay.
cities and town. So that area is needed a residential parking ticket.
Okay.
I agree with you. I'm not in favor 100% everywhere, but I think that we have to go case by case.
Yeah.
And that
Okay.
allow and permit what is needed to
I
be.
might buy that.
Okay. Mansell Field. Mansell Field off of Mansell Parkway in Ward 4 has been closed for, 10, 15
It's
years.
contaminated.
because it's contaminated.
Yes.
The city just held a informational meeting with the remediator of the property, the company that's working on removing the pollution and what their status is going forward and all that type of stuff. I guess Monday, this past Monday, the 16th of June. Anyone hear the result of the meeting?
No.
Tom, anyone? No, okay. I was just curious, because there wasn't anything in today's paper from about the meeting.
There was a tannery there at Mansell Park. There was
Yeah.
a tannery up in Witchcraft Heights Park, the
Yeah.
Witchcraft Heights School. And Councilor Ryan always wanted to have Lenny O'Leary baseball field up
Yeah.
there, a baseball field.
Yeah.
But he couldn't get a baseball field up there because there was a tannery there. So
Yeah.
these small tanneries, Mansell Park,
Yeah.
we're talking about now, a tannery right near Witchcraft Heights Park, which
Yeah.
they finally did name the Lenny O'Leary Park after him. But
Yeah.
there were tanneries all over, small, big ones.
Right,
Funtains
yeah. I
and so
mean,
on.
you know, there's,
They never named the park on the.
They did.
They did. Oh,
The
nice.
Little League field up there is.
Okay.
By Councilor
I'll bring a
Ryan.
picture next time.
Good.
I have it framed.
Nice.
There's a nice bench for Debbie Birkinshaw, the former city
wow.
clerk, down below.
Great.
And the field itself, the baseball field at Witchcraft High School, was named after Councilor O'Leary,
Councilor
the dean of the city council many times,
Right.
the president of the city council many
Wow.
times too.
Wow.
Yeah.
But I wanted a picture in the school. I wanted to rename the school. And I ran into a lot of opposition.
Really?
Big time, big time.
Yeah,
What was the
it
argument?
actually would have for me. I hate naming these buildings after. I don't like the Jean Levesque CLC Center. I don't like this and that. I just don't like name. You know, I mean, I see Pep Canaccio Square someplace. You know,
I'm
then-
not sure where
By the old-
Berkshire Field.
Yeah.
Over by the river field.
Yeah, I mean, I just, you know, and Pep Canaccio, very active, well liked, well loved, really, you know, guy in this city for many, many years, and about as nice a guy as you can have, and again, I just think they shouldn't be named after, you know, they should be.
I'm guilty of that situation myself. I'm trying to get the Cindy Napikowski Performing Arts Center at the new high school.
Right, yeah.
I got the Glenn O'Brien gym named after me.
Right.
Mr. O'Brien.
Oppose,
And you did the coach. Didn't you get the coach?
Yes.
you'd oppose what the current administration is doing. For example, on Memorial Day, they named a square after a guy named Tarnowski, I think.
Yes.
You oppose that?
Oh,
Well,
you
I
know,
just in general oppose anyone who's sort of a local politician. If we're talking about a war
This guy
hero,
died.
this war hero, that's a different
Yeah.
story.
Oh, yeah.
Like we got the Fortin Pot next door. I can live with that because there's someone who died. Someone should have been passed away for at least 50 years before we consider using their name.
I can't. Who was Forden?
Well, okay, good
Who
point.
was Forden?
Yeah, okay.
yeah, you know, the other thing is
But
that
someone's going to say 50 years now. Who was O'Leary? You know, I mean, yeah.
what we've talked about on Veterans Day, when we, you know, on Memorial Day or anything, when we always would go to Green Lawn Cemetery.
I'm really mad at that. I'm really mad at that.
Why?
I think I'll use this one show to talk about that. I don't know who made that decision, whether it was the Veterans Council or anybody, but that is where the Memorial Day should be, period. Especially Memorial Day.
It's a wonderful turnout. The people are there. It used to be, you know, the Boy Scouts, the Girl Scouts. You talk about democracy in action,
Wonderful.
right?
And you're veterans. You're speaking from the heart.
Thank you.
But, you know, I would say that we should really find out who makes that decision and why they changed it from something so great that we had, you know, and we had one that we had at the high school, which was very well attended, and one we had at Green Lawn, very well attended.
Well,
If
no,
they want to
Veterans
name
Day
a square
really,
after
Veterans Day is different. It's a little cooler, and they've used the high school more than once, and it's been very successful.
right,
But Memorial Day should be at Green Lawn Cemetery.
right, I agree. Oh, I agree. Yep.
Okay. Salem was awarded $1 million for water projects. After all, we have wooden pipes in the ground because they're so old in many places, and And obviously, when pipes break, not
Well,
only
more
they're costly,
so
they're a pain in the
the
neck.
lead in some of the more recent
Oh, right, okay. Yeah.
recent pipes.
Yeah, that's true. The ones after the wooden pipes would be
Right.
lead. Yeah,
They're not made of lead, but they were joined together
right.
with lead.
Lead soldering, because that was the
Right.
solder. Yeah, okay. So yeah, so it was $1 million for water projects for Salem, which
Which
we
is
need.
nothing. It's nothing.
Yeah,
$1 million is like what? What would handle? Not even a street?
yeah.
Right now, they're working on Federal Street. They dug it up, and when they got down there, and they found out that what they needed for valves and everything, and the things to make them work, they didn't have them. So they had to start the whole project to send away to get the valves. And you
Okay.
know, first they open it up, then they close it up, then they open it up, and it's a private company, I believe, that's doing the work.
Yeah,
So
When the Hampton Inn opened up in Salem,
Yeah.
down Riley Plaza, they needed a $1 million grant to do all the Civil War piping, the wood piping in
Yeah.
the Riley Plaza. That's why we have Hampton Inn, and eventually the Marriott Hotel down the street on Canal Street. So a lot of infrastructure has to be done. So this $1 million will go to good use, hopefully.
I think
hopefully.
so too.
Oh yeah, well, it's definitely go
I
to good
think so,
use.
too.
And again, we need a little less of it if we didn't keep adding in, 2,000-3,000 residences every year.
Yeah.
And all the stress they put on
That would be
both
the
the
million.
water delivery and water
That's-
sewer system.
That's an argument for another day, but you're right. We're putting 15 pounds of sausage in a 5-pound skin.
Well, you know, Domingo, Raymond Road where you live, how many times in the past 2 or 3 years has that road been dug up because of the infrastructure and
I
water
can count
breaks?
you maybe 5 times, if I'm not mistaken. But I've seen it. Eventually this year, I think 3 times. Just continuously 1 month, the 2 months after, again, and I seen it 3 times this year. During the year, the entire year,
What's the problem?
I don't know, pipe break. They continue to
They
go fix it.
piecemeal.
Yeah, they continue to fix it and then go back again. I think that had to do with the
I agree.
consequence that we were
I've
talking
seen
about.
It closed. I just
It is
don't
no
know.
way that the pipe gonna help supply water for so many residents at one point. They very old. They might be very narrow. So if we don't consider that now before it's gonna be too late, it's gonna be a disaster one day or another, because when there's those buildings that we're building and we continue to build more, and we bring more people, and they're going to consume more water, that's going to be a chaos. I think in the past election, one of the candidate mayor mentioned that and bring some data that actually clarify the point in terms of how many residents can be allowed to be supplied by a main pipe at one point or another, and also pointed out that we be having a lot of break on pipe citywide, and that's maybe one of the reasons why it's happening, and that's going to be increasing if we don't put attention to that part.
Right.
Be
I
ready
think-
for more because Salem State just got the green light to redo Horaceman School. It's being gutted as we speak, the old Horaceman School on Long Avenue, and it got the green light for new labs where the old library was on Lafayette Street situation. So be ready for more construction.
Oh,
Right, but again, that's not going to add a lot of residences.
No,
Yeah.
no.
So
More piping.
Yeah, but not really. I mean, I don't see that as being a heavy water use, extra water
No,
use for that.
but
So I don't have.
think I kind of follow what DC said. I think let's do it once. In other words, don't piecemeal it. Let's do the whole thing.
Yeah, but the thing is this: they're not going to, and the reason why they're not going to put a patch on something costs $250,000. To replace the pipes in the streets costs $5 million. They don't want to do it on their
You can
watch.
reline them, Mike. You can reline the existing.
Whatever it costs, it's cheaper to put a patch on it for now. It's cheaper today to put a patch on it.
Yeah.
And so they'll let the next,
But it's
the
not that
next,
expensive to do the whole thing.
right, it's
They
less
have-
expensive
they
in the
have
long run.
A technique called relining, where they
Yeah.
just shoot a pipe through the existing pipe, and that's it. No
Yeah, it
big
seems
amount.
like I see trucks that's, on the
Yeah,
name of their truck
yeah,
sounds like
yeah.
that's what they're doing now.
Right.
But again, it's still, that's more expensive to do obviously it's less expensive than replacing the pipe,
Right.
but it's more expensive than digging a hole because we have the thing and putting a patch on it. Yeah.
That doesn't help.
It doesn't help, but it helps on today's budget.
Yeah.
It doesn't help the long run.
Yeah.
It helps
Nobody's
today's budget.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
that's,
very
you know, it's very,
Yeah.
pound-wise
I
and
say
penny-wise and pound
High
foolish.
noon, everyone in the city of Salem flush their toilet. What will happen?
Yeah.
God only knows.
Well, think of this. I mean, here it is. You have a pipe, and water is going through a pipe, however big it is, and it's under pressure, and the water is not moving forward if no one's got their faucets on. But if all of a sudden 100 people, like you said, have flushed a toilet at one point in time, it's going to use so much water.
Super Bowl.
That's right. So the thing is this, what they need to do is they need to put more pressure on the water to handle that, which wears the pipe out quicker. It causes fatigue, metal fatigue, because there's too much pressure on the pipe. Where if it was at a reasonable pressure, the pipes would last a lot longer. So it's typically governments, they do not make, and actually a lot of large corporations, it's next quarter. What's the profit for next quarter? You know, it's not what's good for the company in 10 years, but let's try to pump up the numbers for the next quarter.
Let's get that stock up.
Yeah, so we can get that stock up, and the city is doing the same thing. They're for different reason and a slightly different mechanism, but the same thing. We're not going to spend this money on maintenance on my watch. We're going to keep the taxes down for the thing. Next time, next mayor, 5 years down the road, they're going to get whacked with all this maintenance here. I mean, this was what people accused Mayor Collins of with the schools.
Indeed, big time.
That he didn't spend. He kept the taxes low, but let the schools
56
deteriorate.
and 56.
Yeah,
That was the slogan.
yeah,
58 and 58.
yeah. It was because that was his tax rate. Yeah, yeah. So the thing is this. Yeah. So he was, and again, because of it, when we did a school building program, it was expensive. However, we lucked out or whatever, we happened to come into a period of time where the state started subsidizing up to 90% of that.
Those
Not
are
that
the
we don't pay
days.
state, not that
Good
we
old
don't pay
days.
state
Those are the
tax.
days.
Yeah, not that we don't pay state taxes, but it's a matter of then it's spread out in a lot of places, and they're not building schools or subsidizing the Salem School Department.
Just mentioning that there, you said you were going to bring about the building of a new high school. Does anyone know what it's really know what it's going to cost to build a new high school?
I think what was that the price? 500 million, 530 million,
500 million.
How much?
500 million.
million.
500 million.
Pennies.
One half of a billion.
Pennies. Pennies.
A half
Better
a
than
billion
stock
dollars.
You're a
Better than
former
stock
teacher. I
know.
don't understand you.
I know that.
A half a billion dollars.
right.
Billion with a B.
Yep.
For 1,000 students.
Yep.
1,000 students.
God bless him.
Yeah.
And the plan is now to bring the middle school together,
Yeah,
One-
the junior.
joint.
Okay, yeah, so we're gonna have-
I say
okay.
junior.
So it's going to be a
Yeah.
little less than I thought.
6th,
in a
7th,
way.
and 8th grade will be.
Yeah, middle school.
Okay.
Yeah.